Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Awaiszia, and today our topic is types of poetry. In previous lecture, we have discussed about what is poetry and what is the element of the poetry. And today we will discuss about types of poetry. In types of poetry, we have discussed subjective poetry. There are two types of poetry. One is subjective poetry, and one is objective poetry. Today we will discuss about subjective poetry and its subtypes. Its subtypes is the lyric, the ode, the elegy, and the sonnet. Now we will discuss what is the definition of subjective poetry. Those poetry are the poetry of self-expression. In this kind of poetry, the poet goes down into himself and find his inspiration and his subject in his own experience, thoughts, and feeling. This personal and subjective poetry, the word lyrical is generally applied. So this definition के मंग तो वही ची आगा पोइट्री ची फागे के मंग द सेल्फ एक्सप्रेशन मतलब द खपल जान बारा के जिकमा पोइट्री ना तो मंगा सब्जेक्टिव पोइट्री वायु इन दिस काइंड ऑफ पोइट्री पर दी पोइट्री के जिकम दे पोइट जिकम दे खपल जान बारा की खपल थॉट्स खपल सब्जेक्ट खपल इंस्पायरेशन पर खपल जान की पैदा की और पागी माई लिखल की और खपल वन एक्सपीरियंस खपल वन थॉट्स एंड खपल वन फीलिंग पर के जिकम दे इस्तेमाल है और खपल सब्जेक्ट और खपल इंस्पायरेशन जिकम दे आगा पागी माई लिखल कई now, therefore, the word lyrical is generally applied. These types of this subjective poetry, there are four types of subjective poetry: the lyric, the ode, the elegy, and the sonnet. So, first of all, we have discussed what is the lyric poetry. So, subtype of subjective poetry, the lyric. So, we will discuss the definition of the lyric. So, first of all, we have to discuss the definition of lyric. Lyric is a collection of words making of a complete song, short and non-narrative poem. A lyric use a single speaker who express personal emotion or thought. Gora lyric chikam de namu sir a collection of verse way वर्ष तमंग चिकम दे उर्दू के नसर वायु मेकिंग अप अ कंप्लीट सॉन्ग लिरिक की बच्चे मुझे कंप्लीट सॉन्ग या ब शॉर्टी या ब नॉन नैरेटिव पोएम आगा पोएम चागा लिखल नहीं बल्कि दागशान वे लिखी अ लिरिक यूज ए सिंगल स्पीकर पर लिरिक की मुझे चिकम दे सिंगल स्पीकर यो स्पीकर भाई आगा ब चिकम दे खपल पर्सनल इमोशन एंड खपल पर्सनल थॉट पर चिकम दे आगा एक्सप्रेस कई फॉर एग्जांपल मुझे इंटरेस्टिंग एग्जांपल द वर्ड इज टू मच विद अस रिटन बाय विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ दिस इज द lyric poem and very interesting and very amazing poem and very beautiful. And now the second number one is the daffodils. Daffodils is also a very interesting poem. This is the example of the lyrics and these both are the example of subjective poetry. Now we will discuss the elegy. The elegy is the second types of subjective poetry. In elegy, first of all we have discussed their definition and after this we have discussed their example in poem. So first of all we have discussed the elegy definition, and elegy is a sad poem. The sad poem is usually written to express sorrow for someone who is died. The elegy chikam de aga poem de aga poetry da chi likal شي د هغه کس باره کې چې د هغه سره چې کوم دی خفګان ظاهر کړي هغه کس باره کې چې هغه وفات شوی. فار ایگزامپل دیر از ایگزامپل I would walk all the way from Boulder to Birmingham if I thought I could see your face, Emily Harris. So this is the a stanza written by Emily Harris for a person who is died at a very young age, at the age of 22. So he write this stanza refer to this person who is died at the young age. So he expressed sorrow for the person who is died. So this elegy is a poem who express sorrow for someone who is died. So the answer is subjective poetry da or the answer is example. Now subjective poetry third number types, the ode. First of all we have discussed their definition, and after discussing the definition we have to explain their examples, and after this you will easily understand how odd meaning and the poetry. So a kind of poem usually praising something. Our poem cheriki mungser the sisipatki, for example, odi ode the of intimation of immortality of from recollection of early childhood. So this is the phrasing or written by Williams Woodward for the childhood. So this is a kind of subjective poetry, the ode. Now we are going to discuss the sonnet. First of all, we have to discuss the definition of sonnet. Uh, Tradition sonnet is a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter, employing one of several rhyme scheme and adhering to a tightly structured thematic organization. So this is the sonnet. Sonnet is a 14-line poem. Sonnet consists on 14 line in an iambic pentameter, implying one several rhyming scheme. They have a rhyming scheme and a tightly structured thematic organization. د کوم سره چې کوم دی د دې خپل تیمي او د دې خپل چې کوم دی rhyming scheme یې پکې او دا موږ سره consist په 14 line مانی. So consist on octave mean 8 line. 8 line in 8 line there is a question and problem are mentioned. In the first 8 line there is question and answer are mentioned, while the second means 6 line. After the 8 line there is 6 line in which is answer the question and solving the problem which is mentioned above. So this is the type of subjective poetry sonnet. For example, the word is too much with us is an example of the sonnet.